Road to Acoustics said, "Thanks a lot. Please, can you make a video on the optimized left-hand placement to reach the better intonation possible? The best intonation possible? Points of contact, etc., etc. Thanks." Okay. Alright, so this question is... It's not really possible to just answer this question, like, directly. Because everybody... it's complicated, right? But I could give some tips. Everybody's hand is different, and in order to get something good, sometimes you have to compromise. Especially for me, because my hand is small. I have small Asian hands. But I'll give you some tips. In general, you want to keep your hand shape the same shape when you play. And when you move, like when you shift up, you want to keep your hand shape generally the same. Because imagine it like, first position is the position that everybody learns first, right? So you're like, maybe you're like this, you feel like this. And then when you shift up, like for example, third position, you generally want everything, the hand shape to be the same. So that's my first tip. My second tip is that, overall, intonation is still heavily relies on your listening. Like when you're, if you, a lot of people like, when they play out of tune, they don't hear that they're out of tune, and it's partly because they're concentrating on playing the violin. They're spending so much CPU, brain power, CPU on playing the violin, that if they're like playing out of tune, they don't hear that they're out of tune. Like they don't hear that there's something is off, right? If you don't hear that something is off, then you're not gonna go fix it. Like it's forever gonna be off. So that's why I highly recommend you record yourself, because if you record yourself, you can actually hear, oh my goodness, I was like a little bit off there, because you're totally focused on listening to your own recording, and you're like, oh my goodness, I was actually a little bit high over there, and I was actually a little bit low over there, but there was no way I heard that when I was playing. Okay, that's number two. Like even me, I've been playing for how long? 27 years. Even me, I'm like, I'm not always in tune. I'll say I'm not always in tune, right? And a lot of the time, I go listen to my own recording. I'm like, oh my goodness, I was off over there, and I didn't notice. It happens all the time. So record yourself and listen to yourself, so you can totally focus on listening to how off or on you are. And yeah, it sucks. It's like the most brutal and honest way to check yourself out. That's number two. Number three is a really good tip I would say is when you're playing, when you're pressing down your fingers, right? Always make sure that you always make sure that you concentrate on which fingers are half steps. Concentrate on the half steps. So concentrate on like if your second finger is close to the third finger or close to the first finger. That's what you can physically feel. Like apart from your hearing, of course. You could physically feel like my 1 and 2 are close together. So I keep my 1 and 2 very close together, and right. So this is like a C natural. I can keep my 2 close to my 3 for a C sharp. This is really important, and you have to like really insist that you really do that, because if you're not doing this, it's kind of hard to play certain things in tune, like especially when you're playing fast, when you're playing fast, everything just happens in a blur. So what can you hold on to when you're playing fast? The only thing you could really reliably hold on to really is your practicing. Like everything that you practiced, it should just happen because it's in your muscles. But then secondly, you can kind of feel which two fingers are very close, right? So if you're doing something like this, you could be like, okay, like pretend like you're playing a super fast. Like, what can I even like hold on to in my brain? The only thing is like my 3 and 2 have to be close together. I know that's close together, right? And I know the 2 and 3 are far apart. And then 1 and 2 are far apart. Oh shoot, that was too far. There it is. And then 3 and 4 are close together. 2 and 3 are far apart. 1 and 2 are far apart. So like when I'm playing fast, that's like all I'm thinking about to try to be more in tune. If you're even a little bit like not close together, for the ones that it sounds really out of tune. It doesn't like, it sounds really not close together. It sounds out of tune. Anyway, it sounds out of tune. So that's my third tip. Yeah, the rest is like listening to intervals, and it mainly is just listening, really. It mainly is just listening. That's only for intonation. Like, if you are talking about sound, that's a different story, right? Because for sound, I really, man, normally I would really want to talk about sound, but I'm just answering your question. For intonation, it's just those things. Mostly it's listening, and then when you're playing, your listening power is reduced. So in order to really check out if you're in tune, you should record yourself and then listen back to there. And then number 2 is to check intervals, right? Intervals, it's easier to latch onto intervals, especially when you're going faster. So the easiest thing that you could actually feel is which two fingers are close together. So if physically you can feel if two fingers are supposed to be close together, you just smash them together. You smash them together. 2 and 3 or 2 and 1, pinky and 3, etc. That's something physical you can feel out. And then when you're shifting, you generally want to keep your hand shape the same, because you can shift and you can also change your hand shape, right? And that really messes up your intonation because nothing feels the same anymore. Like, even if I'm going up high, you want to keep as close to the original first position, good feeling shape that you can. I'm just like doing my best to keep it in the same shape because I'm more accurate like that. If you shift up and you do something like that, you are screwed. I hope that helps.